Today, we're going to challenge some traditional perspectives. We're going to explore the controversial idea that not producing economically and otherwise might actually be a form of disobedience to God's original command. So let's get radical, shall we? Hey there, welcome saving and investing. And I'm 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, saying that finances is not a set forgiveness. Hey, welcome back to the Radical Godly Stewardship podcast. I am your host, Lexi Johnson, and today we're diving into episode, is this 4 or 5? Maybe it's 5. I don't know. We're diving in though. And we are looking at the importance of producing, right? The importance of being fruitful in a modern world. The world tells us to be content with what we have, to settle for the 9 to 5 job, to live within our means. But the kingdom principle is different. Kingdom principle is different, right? It calls for multiplication, it calls for expansion, it calls for taking what you have been given and making it more. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 to 30, and I know you guys, maybe almost every episode, I am talking about this passage of scripture. It is the parable of the talents. But this passage does make it very clear that Yahusha expects us to invest. He expects us to grow. He expects us to multiply what we've been entrusted with. And all of that starts with producing, right? The servant who buried his talent was condemned, not for losing it, but for failing to produce with it. Genesis 1:28. This is the mandate that this whole podcast stands on. It says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. We've heard this verse countless times, often in the context of procreation, right? I mean, I can't tell you, I've been in church all of my life. And this verse really didn't hit me in a different way, I would say, until a few years ago, right? Because, like many others, I only thought of it in terms of procreation because that's how it was presented, right? And of course, when you don't do your own studying and you don't seek if you don't seek revelation directly as you're studying, right, then you can miss a lot of things. You can miss revelation, you can miss deeper meaning, right? So what if we've been limiting its meaning? What if being fruitful is about more than just having children? What if it's a divine mandate to produce, to create, to generate value in every aspect of our lives, including our finances? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, this divine mandate to produce. So we're going to unpack Genesis 1:28. And before we do so, I just want to let you all know, if you're watching on YouTube, hey, how are you? Hit the like button, subscribe, especially if you've, watched more than a couple of these episodes already, right? Do us, a solid and hit the subscribe button, right? Share this out. If you're on Facebook watching, share this out, give us those likes and hearts, and just let everyone know that we're here. Okay, everyone that you know, because there are probably people in your network who won't even get these messages unless you share them. So my apostle likes to call it being digital evangelists. So would y'all do that for me today? I mean, we can be digital evangelists for a whole lot of other things, right? Like we can send jokes and we can send news stories and we can send products and all kinds of things. So be a digital evangelist for this cause as well. All right. So let's unpack Genesis 1:28. The command is to be fruitful and to multiply. Um, this isn't just a blessing. It is an imperative, okay? God is instructing humanity to produce and to expand. And so while procreation is certainly a part of this, the scope is much broader than that. Let's consider John chapter 15, verse 8, where Yahusha says, "This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples." So, bearing fruit isn't limited to spiritual virtues, it encompasses all forms of productivity that honor God. Okay. Everything that we do, everything that we say, everything we eat and drink, everything that we, all of it, right, is can be productivity that honors God. So let's talk about economic productivity as obedience. Now, here's where it gets a little, controversial, as I like to say. What if failing to be economically productive is a form of disobedience? I know we don't want to hear that, right? We always want to hear about the nice Jesus. Okay, we always want to hear about the nice Jesus, the one that's just so gracious and so loving and so approving of everything that we do, no matter what it is that we do, right? And we don't want to hear that things that seem to be pretty normal in the world is actually not normal in the kingdom, right? So, again, what if failing to be economically productive is a form of disobedience? Where's the scripture for that? I'm glad you asked. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4. Proverbs 10, verse 4. It says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." Okay, so this isn't just practical advice, it is a moral statement. It is showing like this is the way in the kingdom, right? If you have lazy hands, then expect poverty. Okay. If you have diligent hands, then expect wealth. Okay. Now, there can be a lot more unpacked here. Um, but again, we've talked about the parable of the talents and the servants who multiplied their master's money. They were praised, while the one servant who hid his talent was condemned, right? We compare this with Proverbs 10:4. The master didn't just express disappointment, he also called the servant wicked and he called the servant lazy. Okay. So, this is why I am saying that being economically unproductive is a form of disobedience because there is an expectation of us to produce. There's an expectation of us to produce. All right. So, is it possible that by not actively seeking to produce and multiply what we've been given, including our financial resources, we're falling short of what God expects from us? I think so. Okay. Some of you all out there may not agree, right? You may not want to hear that. Um, but we are falling short of what God expects from us. It's the very first mandate we were ever given. So let's talk about breaking free from this poverty mindset because typically what holds us back from producing is our mindset. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that poverty is holy, that poverty is virtuous, and that wealth is inherently sinful, right? Anybody who, I mean, have you talked to anybody who stipulated that, or anytime they see rich people, talk about rich people, they're like, oh, they're all greedy. They all just want, more, more, more. They're whatever the names they call them, right? They don't even know the person. That's not to say that there aren't any rich people out there who aren't greedy and who aren't, you know, um, good kingdom citizens, right? But every person with wealth, I don't think so, right? I don't think so. But there are some people who believe that if you have, and we are sometimes even unconsciously or subconsciously taught that to have any kind of wealth is sinful, that we shouldn't even desire it, right? It's not important. And all of these other things. So we learn to not express a desire for it. We learn to um, shun it, right? And so whatever you are shunning, you can't then expect to come to you. Does that make sense? Like if I am shunning you, I can't do both at the same time. I can't shun you and welcome you at the same time. It does not work, right? And so it's the same with wealth. You can't subconsciously be against it, but then expect to produce it. Okay? So that's why I say that we've been conditioned to believe that poverty is holy, that poverty is virtuous, that poverty is, you know, godly in some kind of way. And it's really interesting that we have that we think that, because there is nowhere in the Bible that says that, right? First Timothy 6:10 clarifies this for us. It says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." All right. So it's not the money in and of itself. It is the love of the money. So yes, if you have a love of money, meaning you have made it an idol, then that's going to produce all kinds of evil. It's the root of it, it says. But that doesn't just happen with money, that happens with any resource that God has given us. If there is anything that we put above God, anything that we love more than God, then that, the love of it, is the root of all kinds of evil. And why does it say it's the root of all kinds of evil? Well, think about it. If you have that kind of a love for money, most likely you will do whatever it takes to get it. And so, whether that means stepping on people, committing crimes, just being in places where you're not supposed to be, with people that you're not supposed to be with, making agreements that you shouldn't be making, it is the root of all kinds of evil. All right. So, what happens is, because we have demonized wealth above and beyond demonizing the love of it, we may be neglecting opportunities to bless others and opportunities to expand God's kingdom. Every resource that God has given us is to expand his kingdom. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth." He gives you that ability. So if he gives you the ability to produce it, how could it be sinful? Right? If he gives you the ability to produce it, and he does give you the ability, that's what Deuteronomy 8:18 says. It doesn't have certain people's names in there. That verse is for all of us. He has given all of us the ability to produce it. If he's given us the ability to produce it, why would, if it was sinful, why would he give us that ability? Okay? So again, what makes it sinful is the love of it. If God gives us the ability, we should use it, shouldn't we? So before we talk about practical ways to produce income, that's what we're going to be talking about next, practical ways to produce income. I want to share with you an upcoming event. Let me put the Let me put the flyer up. And my silly self in the last episode put the flyer up. I took myself down, forgetting that when I take myself down off the platform, you wouldn't be able to hear me because I wanted y'all just to see the flyer, right? But anyway, I'm gonna get it right today. This is the P3 Emerge Retreat. Prepare, position, pursue. And listen, I am excited to invite you to the all-inclusive 2024 P3 Emerge Women's Retreat. This retreat is hosted by my dear sister, Erica Etienne, where I've had the pleasure of being a guest speaker for the past several years. It is a gateway that is designed to provide a sanctuary where safety, hospitality, and comfort create a foundation for profound connection and acceptance among women. In this tranquil space, we nurture an atmosphere of vulnerability that fosters a deeper, more intimate relationship with Christ. This special event will be held from November 13th through November 17th in a beautiful mansion style cabin in the Smoky Mountains in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. You'll have a chance to unwind, rejuvenate, and engage with like minded women in a serene environment. Okay. And guess what this retreat includes? It includes shared and private accommodations. So if you want private accommodations, you can do that. If you want shared accommodations, you can do that. Gourmet meals prepared by a private chef. And let me tell you all, this chef, y'all, is a beast. Okay. The food is always amazing. Spiritual development activities and workshops, inspirational speakers and group discussions, opportunities for personal growth and reflection. So, this is a wonderful opportunity to step away from your daily routines and embrace a supportive community while focusing on your well being. Okay? Focus on your well being. For more details, you can go to www.p3retreat.info. All right? That is www.p3retreat.info. All right. So there is the link, and let me now take this flyer down. Hey, didn't mute myself this time. So if you're listening out there, you're a woman, I would love to have you join me at the retreat. There is the website there where you can get more information. And I believe there may even still be some partial scholarships that are available. Okay. All right. Let us carry on. Let us carry on. We are going to now talk about practical ways to produce income. Okay. Practical ways to produce income. All right. Number one. And these aren't in any particular order. These are just some things that I thought of. Okay. Entrepreneurship is one way. Okay. I'm not saying this because it has to be the way for everybody. It's one way. All right. So start a business that solves problems and serves others. That's what entrepreneurship is all about, especially for those of us who are in the kingdom. We solve a problem, we serve others. Okay. So start a business that solves a problem and serves others. Proverbs 31 describes a wife of noble character who considers a field and buys it, right? Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So she takes what she produced, her earnings, and then she planted a vineyard. Now, you plant a vineyard, right? Usually you've got seeds and all that kind of stuff. So there then is multiplication. But she first had to produce. She first had to consider the field, buy the field, and then earn from the field, right? She planted a vineyard to multiply. All right, number 2, invest. Okay. Yahusha spoke about wise investing in the parable of the talents. So don't bury your resources, invest them. Okay. Don't bury your resources, invest them. Okay. And when I say invest them, what does that mean? It can mean a lot of things. With money, it could mean, strictly like investing, real estate, personal development, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, alternative investments. It can mean all of that. Okay. Investing in other people. Okay. That too is just as important as investing, when we talk about stock market and all that stuff. All right, number three, multiple income streams. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, invest in seven ventures. Yes, in eight. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Diversify your income, okay, to protect against uncertainties, because that's just the way it is. We live in a world that is uncertain. Nothing is guaranteed. I'm going to say that again. Nothing is guaranteed. It's interesting when people talk to me about, no, I don't know about, doing a side hustle or starting a business or, whatever, starting something new because I'm getting this check every 2 weeks. It's predictable. Is it predictable? Really? Is it guaranteed? People says predictable is guaranteed. Is it though? Okay. There are companies that are closing their doors every day. There are things that happen. If they're not closing their doors, maybe they're getting rid of people. If they're not getting rid of people, maybe they're just getting rid of you. I'm not wishing that on anybody, but I am just trying to merely show that nothing is guaranteed, which is why we need to have multiple income streams. Okay. We need to diversify the way that we bring in income. All right. In case there are uncertainties. Okay. We experienced an uncertainty in 2020. No one could have predicted that. No, I don't know. Maybe some people, but for the most part, nobody could have predicted that, right? All right. Number four, skill development. Increase your value in the marketplace by honing your skills. Okay. Invest in yourself. Hone your skills, improve your skills. Proverbs 22:29 states, do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. When you become very skilled at something, people will seek you out for that skill. People will pay you for that skill. Okay. There's mindsets out there, people like, nobody wants to pay for anything. I don't know who you're talking to. Okay. Because there are people out there that are looking for the skill you have and they'll pay for it. All right. Real estate. So the Bible often references land ownership as a blessing, land as inheritance, right? So consider investing in property as a way to build wealth. I'm telling you, real estate in any time, any market, down or up, is the way to go. How you do it, can differ depending on what the market is doing, right? So you may wholesale in this season, or you may fix and flip, or you may, there's a plethora of ways in really, to get paid in real estate. So it works in any market. Okay. Number six, generosity. If I had to put these in order, this number six would be number one. This is last here, by the way. It would be number one. Luke 6:38 promises, give and it will be given to you. So generosity can open doors to greater resources. And get this, more specifically, giving to the poor. I just want you to Google scriptures on giving to the poor and see how many scriptures in the Bible address it and the promises that are attached to it. Okay. So generosity, if I had to say what is the number one way to produce, generosity would be at the top. And I know that's like counterintuitive, because how do you produce? By giving away? Listen, there's just certain laws of the kingdom that work the way they work. Okay. And generosity is one of them. Now, let's talk about, before we get to practical application, I just want to quickly address this controversy of wealth in the kingdom, right? Why believers or an issue with wealth, right? I just want to address this elephant in the room. And if it's not an elephant, it's something else big that's in the room, okay? Um, some would think that pursuing wealth is selfish and materialistic. Well, here is the uncomfortable truth. It's not about wealth itself, it's about what you do with it. See, the wealth in and of itself, the money in and of itself isn't selfish or materialistic. It's about who you are. Okay. And if I'm being real honest, whatever a person does after they gain wealth is a result of who they already were. So if you were a selfish so and so before you gain wealth, you're going to be a selfish so and so after. Okay. Wealth can amplify, it amplifies whatever you got going on internally already. If you are someone who is in alignment with God and God's will for your life, and you're about working in your purpose and serving others, then wealth is going to amplify your ability to impact the world in a positive way. Remember Joseph in Egypt? I would say in Genesis, maybe chapter 30 to 35, somewhere in there is his story. His management saved nations from famine. But that was already who he was. This wasn't something that all of a sudden came down on him when he got money. It's so interesting to me that we think that, oh, as soon as we get money, it'll straighten us up, or, we'll just all of a sudden have these new skills and all of a sudden all of the knowledge to know how to manage it correctly, right? Mm-mm. It's only going to amplify who you are. So, by embracing economic productivity, you're better positioned to fund missions, to support charities, to create opportunities for others. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So, let's talk about some practical application. All right. How do we move away from theory to action? And I want to give you six, okay? Um, six things here. So, one, there's a mindset shift. So, you have to recognize that producing income is not unspiritual. It is not something that is outside, separate from the kingdom of God. It's a form of stewardship. It's a form of stewardship. It is a resource, and therefore we're called to steward all of the resources that God gives us, including money. All right. Recognize that it all belongs to God. So have this mindset shift that it's not unspiritual, that it is spiritual. Number two, set clear goals. Define what being fruitful looks like for you financially. For everybody, it's going to be different. We've talked about a lot of things. We talked about entrepreneurship, talked about side hustles. We talked about, 9 to 5s. Um, we've talked about all kinds of things. So, what does producing look like for you? What does being fruitful look like for you financially? Number three, educate yourself. Read books, take courses, seek mentors in areas like finance and investing and in entrepreneurship. Okay. Number four, take calculated risk. Listen, I mentioned earlier, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. I don't know why we feel like, there are, I don't know why we feel like there are guarantees in this. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing about this life is guaranteed. Okay. Only thing that we can count on for sure is God, Yahusha, the Holy Spirit. That's it. Okay. We can count on them and what they say. Other than that, we out here taking risks, y'all. Take calculated risks. Step out in faith. But remember, Peter walked on water when he stepped out of the boat. And when he stepped out of the boat, he had his eyes on Christ. He had his eyes fixed on Yahusha. So the same with us. As we are taking these risks, make sure that your eyes are fixed on Yahusha. Number 5, stay accountable. Join a community or find a mentor to keep you aligned with your goals and values. We all need accountability. I can hear some of y'all now. I can do this on my own. I don't need nobody telling me what to do. I don't need nobody asking me about my money. We all need accountability, okay? Because many of us tend to let ourselves off the hook. We feed ourselves excuses and we let ourselves off the hook. So we need that accountability, okay? Now, last practical application tip that I want to give you is to make sure that you align with your purpose. Ensure that your income producing activities honor God and serve others. Make sure they're in alignment with God's will for your life. All right. I want to close with this. Luke chapter 19, verse 13, Yahusha tells the parable of the minas, instructing, occupy till I come. Some translations say, do business until I return. We have a responsibility to be active, to be productive, to be fruitful, not just spiritually, but economically. So here's the challenge. Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone and embrace the fullness of what it means to be fruitful? Are you ready to produce, to multiply, and to steward your resources in a way that honors God? If that's you, I want you to put a 1 in the chat. I sound like I'm doing an altar call, but I'm not. If that's you, I put a 1 in the chat. All right. Let's not settle for a half-lived life. And I guess this could be an altar call. Anyway, I'm in my own head now, right? Let's not settle for a half-lived life. Let's fulfill the divine mandate to be fruitful, okay? To be fruitful in every area, including our finances. So I want to thank you for joining me on this provocative journey. If this episode stirred something in you, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it, discuss it, and most importantly, act on it, right? Until next time, this is Lexi Johnson reminding you to be radical in your stewardship, bold in your obedience, but most importantly, to go out there to produce, to multiply, and to dominate. See you next time.